Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning, Paul. Good to see you both. So, I have here Ashley Burgess-Payne, who's a trainee solicitor.
I am indeed.
But Ashley is fronting the Think to Succeed training program with Parfitt Cresswell members of staff, which is going very well, actually. And it's great to have Andy Hall with us today. And Andy occasionally drops in to help Ash in this process.
Yes.
Andy, could you tell us a bit more about your background, please?
Yeah, sure. I think, as you guys know, I've been self-employed for the last 4 years in this training and development, leadership, coaching type role, and I joined the John Maxwell team, which is an organisation of speakers, trainers, and coaches in the States, and that's where I was fortunate enough to meet Ashley and Teresa. So that was my self-employed journey for the last 4 years. But previous to that, best part of too many years, 30 years, in the corporate world. I was a retailer, I was a shopkeeper by trade.
Right.
So organisations like W.H. Smith, Dixon's, who did the Currys and the PC World brand. So I'm a retailer by trade and by heart.
Yeah.
And that's where I guess I got involved, the more senior I got, in this thing called leadership that we often find ourselves talking about.
So you both have common ground in terms of being John Maxwell members of what would you call it? Members of the John Maxwell team, or
coaching,
mentorship. Yeah. Okay. So that's quite a powerful combination. What do you think? How important is it that you have the John Maxwell training behind you? What is it about John Maxwell that inspires you to? I'm very interested to know more about that.
Sure.
Whoever wants to answer that first.
I think it's the program itself at the core of everything that we do, particularly within Parfitt's and the Think to Succeed program. The fact that John is voted the #1 leadership coach in the world is a big draw, and that speaks for itself, I think. I would say, for me personally, the main thing, I don't know about you, with the John Maxwell team is being part of a team, a community, where people of they're like-minded, their mindset's very much on personal development and growth, and something that we've spoken about before, and having that inner circle around you is very influential on how you develop as a person. So I think for me, that's the main element of the John Maxwell team, aside from, as we say, the core of what John teaches and his laws for growth and development. I don't know about you. Yeah,
I think that word team has always been incredibly important to me. And when I was in the corporate world, I was passionate, and I guess I got relatively famous in the organisations that I worked with about building some relatively successful teams, and that was my passion. When I went self-employed, one of the challenges I think for that was, where's my team gone? Because I was working for myself.
Yeah. And yet being sort of full of passion as well.
Yeah,
to drive the business forward.
Yeah, and for me, when I think I went really searching for two things when I came across the John Maxwell team, and that was how can I belong to something that was like-minded. And secondly, I didn't ever think that one of my core skills, although it's got better over the last couple of years, was writing content. And once I got more familiar with John's content, the team was able to provide content and John's content based on at least 6 of his books. So the content that was, once we became affiliated with the team, was there for us to utilise. And I loved the content as well. For me, it spoke about this thing called leadership in many different guises, but simple.
Yes.
So for me, again, if you read any of John's books, if you can introduce people to John's books, one of the things that I often tell them, that if you're not an avid reader, or if you don't find reading easy, it doesn't come naturally to you. And I must admit, being one of those people, when you pick hold of one of John's book, you go, okay, he tells great stories around subjects that we're passionate about.
He's a great storyteller.
Oh, he can hold a room.
Yeah,
when you go out there.
But you know, I think everyone that attends these seminars should spend a bit of time watching John and listening to John. You know, watching his video. He produces these very clever short
Minute with Maxwell.
And
when you go and see him, they're done off the cuff, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's not planned ahead of time. So someone from the audience will give him a word.
Yeah.
So the whole purpose of A Minute with Maxwell is he's given a word that he speaks into. But when you watch it, he does it so well you think it's all planned ahead of time.
Yeah.
When you go and see it live,
Yeah.
it's just thrown at him and he can speak into pretty much anything, can't he?
Yeah.
But he's infectious, isn't he?
Mm.
I mean, I have watched a number of these, and I can understand why you are fired up and driven by what he says and how he puts things across, and just his sort of sheer ability to engage with an audience, worldwide audience.
Yeah, sure.
And he's not a young guy. And you know,
70 now, isn't he?
this is what is so interesting to see someone that will still be passionate about every day of his working life, and he has no intention to stop.
No.
And I picked up that he was saying how he's slightly concerned about his energy levels just dropping a bit. But
I don't think that was a problem last March, was it?
No.
We were out there
well,
in
there you
March,
go. I thought
and he was dancing around the
Yeah,
stage.
his birthday party.
Not
You
to
see
gone
the
to
one
that.
where he was crawling around under the table?
I know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
tons of energy.
whatever he's on, I want some.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
phenomenal guy. I have to say that you know
But that's
what I've seen.
He's
Yeah.
got a purpose, isn't he?
Yeah.
And that's his drive every morning when he wakes up.
Yeah,
He's passionate, which is what I picked up on from
Yeah.
what you
he's
just said.
intentional. He still has very intentional ways of driving his business.
Sure.
You know, his business world and his private life. And you know, I think if we just borrow a small percentage of that, I can understand how you guys are driven by that, and by passing that on through this training program. I think people should really be aware of how important it is, not just for your business, for the way you may conduct your business life, but it can really add value to the way you live your life outside of a working environment. And I'm sure that's that's the objective behind what you're trying to do.
We get an opportunity to potentially influence companies like yours,
Yeah.
Parfitt Cresswell. But at the same time, I think when you hear someone talking about John in the way that you do, and you're probably just on the periphery of the John Maxwell team, you want to spread this great message of leadership and John's ability of leadership into the country, because I think us as a country have got some leadership challenges, haven't we? And actually, if we can spread John's name into the UK, that's another mantra of mine that drives me on, because of his clear, simple, significant, intentional leadership message.
We spoke into it before. We're quite introvert, aren't we, in Britain?
Yeah.
And we don't like to blow our own trumpets. So part of this programme, the very first step is to identify what you're good at, rather than putting yourself down, isn't it? Which I found quite liberating when I was out there, realising that, oh, no, I am good at this, and it's okay to know you're good at something and focus in on that. So, as you're saying, trying to bring that way of thinking over the pond is, that's a driving factor, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, while we are a law firm, we're still a business, and why should that be any different to any other business and the way it operates? So we will have a responsibility working for a company to add value to our clients, inspire people around you. You know, we can't work in silos. We must realise there are people that are influenced by our behaviour and can be inspired by our behaviour. And I think that while people may not have the opportunity to be leaders, they have the opportunity to behave like leaders, perhaps.
And that's the benefit of the John Maxwell team, what we're doing with Think to Succeed, what you do with your business, is that it gives you, it's about taking ownership, control of what you do on your level as an individual. And by taking ownership and accountability, it almost gives you that freedom, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you're speaking with Parfitt Cresswell or any business, you do have a role to play in the business, whether that's as an employee or if you're brought in from the outside. What you do does impact on how the business progresses, how the business grows, or the general public. like we as lawyers, solicitors, we're offering a service, so it's down to you to offer the best service and be at the top of your game,
Yeah,
isn't
absolutely.
it? But to do that, you have to almost step back and sort of reset and go, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm good at, this is why I'm doing it, and go from there, which is what we're trying to instill in people.
Yeah. Driven by the leadership of Parfitt Cresswell and you guys wanting to invest in your people.
Yes.
Now, more and more of organisations like yours and others choose to invest in their people.
Yes.
Because you can only grow if your team grows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the leadership, it starts with the leadership.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm sure you can talk into a bit more.
Absolutely. And I think that, certainly what I recognise from the leadership of this company and have experienced is how the leadership gives you empowerment to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And responsibility is what makes good leaders.
Yeah.
Taking responsibility for what you're doing. And you can practice that while you're not a leader, but you still have we all have we're in a position where we can take responsibility and show that we might fail once or twice in what we do, but we can fix that quickly.
Part of the learning process.
Yeah, part of the learning process.
Failing forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go forward. I mean, it's a fast-moving world, and learn fast, fix it fast, and move on.
Yeah.
I think Steve Jobs said something like that, but I can't quote that exactly.
It is a fast-moving world, isn't it? But you have to take the time to study yourself in order to move forward, because you have to. One of the qualities of a top-notch leader is vision.
Absolutely.
And knowing how to move forward and where to move forward. So it is a very fast-moving world, but if you don't take the time to know where you're going, then it's difficult, isn't it? You could end up in a mess.
Yeah, sure.
Or a lot of wasted time, I should say.
Yeah.
We should all take 20 minutes out of our day just to think a little bit about what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And just plan ahead a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
That's
thinking ahead and then evaluating.
Yeah.
That's where the greatest lessons come from.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the first in one of John's books that we've been working with inside Parfitt Cresswell, the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. The first law in that book talks about setting your intention. It's all about intentionality.
Yes.
And what we're talking about, or touched into and moved into now, is setting your intention every day about what it is that you're going to achieve and how it is you're going to behave. And I guess the cliche, but choosing your right attitude for that day and setting yourself up in the right way.
Now, at the base of your emails,
Yeah.
on your email signature, Andy, you have a comment, don't you?
It's stolen, of course, like all the best.
from Carl Jung.
Yes, Carl Jung, yes.
Carl Jung,
Yes,
sorry.
Yes. Swiss psychologist, yeah.
Okay, so tell us a bit about that. That strapline you took.
I was first made aware of it a number of years by another individual that Ashley and I know quite well, who's in the faculty of the John Maxwell team. So a guy called Christian Simpson, who heads up the coaching faculty, and that quote that he made us aware of, that I'd never heard of, was, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate."
That's great.
And then, and the first time you hear that, and it sort of passes you by, and then when you hear someone using it all the time, you're thinking, okay, what does that really mean? And I think for me, it sort of started to think about how do we operate? And most of us operate perhaps in this world of maybe on autopilot all the time, and we have this inbred belief that things just happen to us. But I think the reality of that is that if you listen to the words, until you make what's unconscious conscious, or until you make what you're not aware of more aware, then you realise that you have the ability to
you do.
to direct your life in a way that perhaps sometimes we think we don't have.
Because every action has a consequence.
Yeah, as a reaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was using again, because I teach some Myers-Briggs type indicator work as well, and at the heart of Myers-Briggs, the theory behind it is Carl Jung.
Nice.
So I was doing some Myers-Briggs work yesterday with a team of people, so we're having exactly the same conversation. So it just helps me. It's one of my favourite quotes, and I've got lots of stolen ones, but that one's one of my favourites in terms of how it makes me aware every morning that the day that I'm about to have I've got a huge amount of responsibility for directing it, rather than just relying on what happens to me.
I mean, can you give us an example of how that you made a decision on something because you thought differently about it and took on board that switch from, you know, from unconscious to conscious behaviour?
I don't know whether this one does it, but I think for me, in this world of corporate that I used to belong to for a long time in my life, when I left it, I think I stepped on the scales one day after and looked in the mirror and thought, this isn't perhaps the body that I would choose to want to operate in, and realised that when I weighed myself and did the old body mass index stuff, that I was probably about 3.5 stone overweight.
Good Lord.
And that's the amount of, I guess, the weight loss that I've had since I left the corporate world 4 years ago. And if you go back to the corporate world, I found myself, and I was working with a team yesterday, it reminded me of it, where the lunch break is how come all of the sandwiches and how come all of the rolls and the crisps and the fizzy pop.
It's easy to do.
And I was in a world of meetings. And if I used to go to my office in the morning, you'd often get, you know, someone in the office say, "Are we going to go out for the bacon roll?" Yeah, get me a bacon roll and add sauce with that, would you?
Okay.
So my life had become meeting after meeting, and
Yes.
bacon roll and fizzy pop and lunchtime with all the sandwiches.
You were caught up in this sort of
just
trap almost.
Unconsciously.
Yeah, consciously, just going with it.
Everybody's eating a sandwich, so it would be rude for me not to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I left and thought, well, hang on a minute, you know, I remember having, I don't deserve to look like this. It's like, well, hang on a minute, who's responsible for that? And what have I done to contribute to that? And not only was I eating in that way, I wasn't exercising either.
Okay. I think that's a good example.
So I think for me that was the big thing, and then start to be conscious of, well, okay, you know, I've got to start exercising, I've got to start taking responsibility for what goes in this.
Yeah.
And then you make a conscious effort to say, well, okay, you know, I'm going to start running, and that's all I did. You know, for 3 days a week, I go running, and for 2 days, if I can, and for 2 days a week, on a Monday and a Friday, I have an appointment with a personal trainer, and I consciously work hard to ensure that I don't miss that.
That's self-discipline that you've now put into place. That's your new regime now, which you live to.
And when that routine gets a little bit mucked up.
You then reflect on that.
You feel a little bit out of sorts.
Yeah, quite, absolutely. God, you're making me think now. What do I? Who's got the sandwiches?
What were you saying when you first started running? You would be lucky if you could get to the end of the road, you know, without feeling it. Whereas now you've just run a marathon.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's, for you, I would say, it's that long-term vision, long-term goal, isn't it? But
it is.
Also just taking it in bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
Because you have to start somewhere.
Setting new goals, but actually surprising yourself that you can achieve.
Yeah.
It's having that steely determination, knowing you'll get there.
Yeah.
Lots of people, don't they? And I'm sure John's one of them. I can't think of a particular chapter, but it's about taking that first step.
Yeah.
In that
story of if you're going somewhere.
Yeah, it's just take that first step.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're heading, for example, to Brighton from here in night time, you can't see Brighton from here.
No.
You switch your headlights on and you can see
That's right. Yeah.
how far up the road.
Yeah.
But then you keep travelling, you keep seeing a bit further.
Yeah.
And further.
But then you're still visualising the fact
you have
I'm
to
going
have
to
your
get
end
there.
goal.
So your goal's there.
Yeah.
And you know, I had a dream. Who said that?
It was you, wasn't it?
Martin Luther King,
As well as you,
friend. Yeah. Or did he say I have a mission statement? I can't remember. But so we can be so much more dynamic, aren't we, by sort of goal setting, pushing ourselves, you know, to achieve things
what
that
it is
maybe
we want to achieve.
And I think, you know, if we all did that in a business, how much more productivity would we achieve out of that?
Well,
even by small bite-sized chunks.
We all do it.
Nothing dramatic.
You say there's not enough hours in the day. You know, I don't have enough time.
Wow.
But when I know for me personally, when I actually stopped and took the time to look at and analyse what I was really doing with my time,
Yeah.
there was a lot of wasted time. You know, or I wasn't utilising my time to the greatest effect.
Yeah.
You know, I was doing things that I thought were worthwhile and that I thought would move me along, but they weren't in the grand scheme of things. When I actually looked at the cause and the effect, they weren't really taking me where I wanted to go. And a few years ago, the problem with that was I didn't really know where I wanted to go. To your point, I was just almost stumbling through life. I didn't really have a long-term plan. I had a plan to get me to the weekend, and that was it.
Yeah.
Which you can't really go far with that, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it takes time, and I think that's what I love about the John Maxwell team is it's not all just a load of talk and oh that sounds nice.
Sure.
It's you know it's instilled in you that anything that is worthwhile having is uphill, and it takes hard work. It doesn't just happen like that. John, for example, isn't the #1 leadership coach in the world. Didn't happen overnight. He's been doing it for, help me out, 25, 30, 40
I think it's
years.
over 40 years.
You know, and he's written over 100 books now.
Yeah.
You know, it takes time and it takes effort, but you do have to, like you said, Paul, know where you're going. You have to have that vision.
Yeah. And also, when you work for a company, you have to share that company's vision.
Absolutely.
And for us,
know what it is.
For us, the vision is shared by the leadership team. But it's important that we all buy into that vision
and understand it and share it
and continue to grow, isn't it?
and acknowledge and reflect back how you understand it, and also contribute to achieving it and going beyond that vision. You know, the lid doesn't have to be on that.
Is it Christian that says it? Give more value than you expect back in return.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So it's always, you know,
Yeah.
and John says it as well. He actually said it in Orlando back in March. I can't remember the exact story, but it's if you're expected to deliver X,
whatever,
you deliver that and more.
And
that is just your starting point.
That's
not the end point of what you give.
No, exactly.
That's just your base.
Exceeding
Right?
expectations.
So if people
all the time.
expect that of you, you exceed it.
Which is great. It means the company produces
Yes,
greater
it
results,
does.
and you feel your self-esteem.
Yeah, but you're also valued because people will look at you and they will acknowledge that hard work. It doesn't go unnoticed.
Yeah, but then you're inspiring others beneath you. It's a responsibility that everyone has in business.
And it's a never-ending journey.
It
is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
But it's always progressing, and that's what I love about it. It's not stale.
No.
You don't get to an end point. I mean, you probably could speak into this better than I can, but John talks about not having goals.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
because if you get to a goal
Yeah.
and you achieve it, you set your goal and then you achieve it.
Yeah.
Well, then you
Got it? Yeah.
where do you go next? You kind of flounder around there, celebrating
Yeah.
that you've got there, but you know,
Yeah, sure.
it's more of a long-term journey of just keep going.
Yes. I can.
He talks about being growth orientated rather than goal orientated.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So goals are getting you along the way to growing. Yeah. So
But if you're focused, the idea is if you focus on your overall growth, you'll hit your goals anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas if you just focus on your goals, you may miss them. You may not get there, which obviously can have a negative impact on you. The way you feel about things, isn't it?
And you see John walking that talk because you touched on it earlier that he's got as much energy as perhaps he's always ever had.
Yeah.
And he doesn't ever want to retire. He talks about why would
I
you ever want to retire from something that you love?
Yeah.
And actually, that's the quote that that's always got me as well. Cracky, absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I'm doing every day what it is that I love, why would I ever want to stop doing it?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, isn't it, to see how determination. I mean, look at what. All right, it's not a great example, maybe, but if you look at what's happening at Wimbledon this week, you've got people like Federer, who's 35, and Venus Williams, who's probably older than that.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Semi-finals again.
and people are saying, what's going on here? Why aren't the younger guys coming forward and taking the crown away?
Sure.
Boy, that's that's determination.
Yeah,
isn't it, to
absolutely.
succeed?
Yeah, and that'll be about their daily habits again. What they do every single day.
Yeah, every single day.
That accumulates, doesn't it?
Yeah. That'll be getting up at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, going out, training hard,
but using their time effectively.
Yeah.
The 80-20 principle. They know that there's probably 20% of what they do as athletes in this instance that delivers them the 80% that's the most effective.
Yeah.
Rather than doing it the other way around, using 80% of your time to only achieve 20% of effectiveness.
Exactly.
And that's working smart, isn't it? As I alluded to before, a few years ago I was probably not working any harder now than I was before. It may even be the other way round. I may have been working harder before, but because I didn't have a vision or a direction and wasn't using my time smartly, I was not really getting anywhere.
No, you're working smart. You don't.
And if I was, it was taking a long, long time.
Yeah, you can working smarter rather than hard.
And that comes with the preparation, doesn't it? We were talking about it this morning. Using your Sunday evening, 20 minutes, half an hour, just to map out that week, so you know what you're trying to achieve, what your growth will be that week.
Absolutely.
How you're going to do it, and when you're going to do it. Because as you're saying with your personal trainer on a Monday and a Friday, if you time block that, it's in your diary, it's in your mindset. It's unlikely, I know there are certain circumstances that can't be avoided, but it's unlikely that anyone can break into that time and you'll go.
Sure. Yeah. And sometimes that's either 7 or 6:30 in the morning every Monday, every Friday, and you sometimes have that conversation with someone and think, "What? 6:30 in the morning? Are you sure? Not sure I could get out of bed at that time to do that." Well, if you've got something to aim for,
Well, I was there yesterday morning.
Right. If you've got something to aim for, you're gonna do what it needs to be done to get there, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And if there isn't any more time in the day, you've got to find it from somewhere, haven't you? And you can only take it from certain places.
Yeah.
And in this case, you've got to take it from the sleep.
Yes.
You've got to decide you're going to have less hours in our bed.
Yeah.
But I love that in the morning, having the time to ease myself into the day, sort of plan, look at what my overall weekly plan is, focusing on what my daily plan is, and go from there, as opposed to needing to be out of the house at 7:30 and waking up at 7:15 and everything's a rush.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instantly my mindset is out of sync, really.
Yeah.
And suddenly everything becomes irritating.
Yeah.
The traffic on the way.
That's right. You only need one stressful thing to happen to you in that morning, and it throws you out.
You're in control. That's not, as you said earlier, things happening to me. That's the fact that I woke up late. And I know that happens to everyone, but if I choose to lay in, and then everything's a rush, as opposed to if I get up earlier, ease myself into the day, it's basically you're in control of your life, and that's the underlying message of what we're trying to instill in people.
If you go back to your tennis analogy, Paul, I think lots of the top sportsmen talk about, well, you only see me when I'm lifting the trophy. You only see me when I'm playing the Wimbledon final.
Tip of the iceberg.
You don't see what I do on the Monday and the Tuesday and the Wednesday and the Thursday and the Friday before that, which is, I'm up and I'm training hard and I'm in the gym or I'm with my coach or whatever it is.
They know their limitations as well as those top guys. Federer does not. Again, it's a good example because Federer knows that if he plays in every tournament, like Andy Murray's done, he's burnt out.
Right,
he's on burnout.
Yeah.
So he knows himself. He's probably reached a point in his life where he knows what he's about.
He knows what works for him. I was watching it the other night with Nadal, and is it his backhand or his? I'm not sure what you'd call it. Help me out, Paul. But he kept going to it. That was his go-to.
His go-to shot.
Yeah,
right. Because that was his strength.
Yeah, he's got an amazing.
And again, that's because as an athlete, they know what their strengths are. But even in business, in a law firm, you have to know what your strengths are in your particular role.
You do.
And that could be people skills, or it could be the work you're actually doing.
Yeah.
For example, Federer is a fantastic, one of the best, maybe the best tennis player. If you put him on a golf course, it's a different story, and vice versa. If you put McIlroy on a tennis court,
of course.
they know what their strengths are and they've worked towards them. And over years, that's an extreme example, isn't it, as an athlete? But everyone has their strength, and if you know what that is and you focus on that and build on that, but also know what your limitations are, as you said with Federer, you don't completely ignore them.
Yeah.
But
just be aware of them.
You try and build your day, your week, your month, and year in life.
Absolutely.
So that you're spending most of your time on what your strengths are and working in an area of strengths. As John says, he's good at 1, 2, maybe 3 things. Exceptionally good at them.
Yeah.
And he's focused on them. There's probably 150 other things that he's not very good at. And the same for all of us.
Yeah.
So if you focus on where your strengths lay and build a career or a life around those strengths,
absolutely,
then that should afford you greater freedom.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you just completely ignore where your weaknesses are.
No. And your clients will respect you for it and will respond accordingly. they'll be given great added value and great service, and that's what business is about as well, isn't it? It's got it's got to reflect on the bottom line as well at some point.
Oh yeah.
So
business,
that's what
I think business, the core, the stem of that is your personal development, isn't it? Because if you're happy with what you're doing, that filters into your work life and your business. And as we're saying, the vision's already here at Parfitt's. Everyone that's here now has bought into that vision.
Yes.
But the genesis of that, I suppose, is the individual. Everyone's got a role to play, but that individual has to know what they want to do.
Yeah.
Let us as a firm know
Yes.
what they want to achieve, and then we can help them work together as a team to grow and develop. Because the idea is, as I said in the Think to Succeed seminar, is that if you're here, regardless of age, I'll just pick an age like myself, I'm 30 in a couple of weeks. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Ideally, I'm going to be here until
whenever you decide to stop.
Yeah, when I decide to stop, I prefer that.
Yeah.
So I need a long-term plan.
Yes.
And the idea is that as a firm, Parfitt Cresswell, we can offer that to people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think everyone has to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't want people to feel like they're not progressing or that they have to go and look elsewhere.
Yeah.
That is not what we want. We need to work, and we do work with our team. They know what our vision is, but in return we know what their vision is as well going forward, and then we can help and work together.
Very encouraging, and I think if anyone from the outside is also looking in on this and finding this interview on the website, and if they're looking at this company for whatever purpose, if they're looking for another job, then hopefully they'll pick up on the culture that's growing within the business.
It is culture.
It is a culture, isn't it? It's like a seam that is now in place within the business. That's why this is so important.
Because it
for that reason
changes
as well.
the atmosphere of a business, of anywhere. But like you say, it is a culture, it's an environment, the atmosphere. If you've got a good atmosphere in a company, in a business, an organisation, and everyone's aiming for the same growth, both personally and as an organisation, it's a good place to be.
It is. That's so important. That atmosphere of good nature, happy environment.
No Sunday night blues. So
I
used to have that when I used to be a teacher.
Haven't we all?
Sunday night, Friday afternoon, evening was amazing.
Well, you see it all the time, don't you? On
Sunday evening rolls
social
around,
media, people counting down the days to Friday night. And so, is that any way to live? You want people to come to work.
Some people think I'm mad. Like, I would talk to my friends and they'll look at me as if I'm a lunatic. But I love Monday mornings. I love coming into work. Because I'm doing something that I love and enjoy doing, and I know I'm also helping people grow. I'm instilling value in people, and that's great for your own self-esteem.
You're both part of something, that's significant. You've got a huge vision in this organisation. You've got huge plans and huge visions of growth, and you've made this statement of intent of where it is that you want to go, and how much growth you want to bring, and how much you want to change the world of law firms in the UK, and that's such an exciting vision. And with the leaders of this organisation, I can see you achieving it. And you want people like Ashley and you guys to be part of that, to be excited to be part of that. And I don't know any other organisation
when we go to
focused as you guys are.
All our different meetings and events, and Teresa tells people of her vision. It's the same reaction every time.
Yeah, you just go,
people that are in the legal world, outside the legal world, everyone gets excited by it, and I love that leadership is infectious. As you said, and I think that's a great vision, great leadership team to have.
It is, and it's also there's a chap called Kevin Roberts who I sort of follow. He was the chief exec worldwide at Saatchi and Saatchi. He had to leave the business for a certain reason, but he may be reinstated back. I'm not quite sure. But he, as a creative person, Saatchi and Saatchi drive the most creative output for their brands. We're all aware of their credentials, and Saatchi and Saatchi still sit at the top of that ladder. But he's a firm believer in creativity as well. That's one of the key sort of credentials and ingredients for successful leadership is creative ideas, creative thinking from the top that will drive a business forward to success and longevity. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that and how, and whether that's built into John's thinking. I mean, it's slightly biased because Kevin Roberts is the head of a very an advertising agency network that thrive on creativity, but that's what they're paid for. But
I would say,
how do you feel about that?
Well, I would just say I think creativity comes from, you're more creative when you know who you are as a person, which is at the core of what we do. And I think also, our leadership team is very creative, always dynamic, thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, this
But
is an example of it.
This is an example.
It's a real example.
I love the idea that we can throw ideas around, we can share ideas, and there is no silly, bad idea.
Yes, good point. Yeah.
As long as you yourself have thought through the idea, why we should do it, and you offer that up, I think, that's how we grow, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's being creative, especially nowadays, like the same with social media and everything's so quick and it's a fast-paced world. You need to be creative to move forward. But you have to have the environment where people feel that they can express themselves. And again, that comes down to what we're doing. This is all about being an individual. I know you're part of a team, but it is the individuals that make up that team, and everyone's unique. They've got their own skill set, their own experiences.
I absolutely agree with that.
And I think this idea of what John teaches, what we do with Think to Succeed, what you do with your own coaching business, is instilling in people that self-belief, self-confidence, their self-esteem increases. They're in control. And with that, you're more confident to offer up your ideas.
Absolutely. And you're happy to take on the responsibility. If you get it wrong once or twice, take a risk. Take a risk.
Absolutely.
Because that's what it's got to be about as well.
Control risk. Isn't it?
Control risk. Absolutely. But learning from it, fix it, move on.
The Wright brothers didn't have a pilot's license.
No,
as Paul Martinelli says. They built it, they knew it, they started to fly it, they didn't know how to land it.
But they had a vision.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, that's where that word creativity and vision link.
The
Saatchi and Saatchi guy you referred to, you mentioned John. John just wants to change the world through leadership. And his organisations are doing it.
That's his vision. Change the world.
Change the world. I mean, it doesn't
a
get much bigger than that, does it? That's his vision, and the team that he's got around him are helping him deliver that. He's delivered leadership workshops and infected people with leadership in every country in the world. In fact,
it goes into governments.
I've played a part, and I know you will in the future. I went to Paraguay with John's team a couple of years ago because he wanted to play a part in helping change a country. The president of Paraguay says we need to change around here. John, you're the guy to come and do it.
I'm beginning to think that to get the chance of interviewing John here in this one is maybe one step too far.
It could be different because he was asked to run, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Oh, yeah. That's another story.
That is a story, though. Just think how different things would be.
Being John and not Trump.
Yeah.
Yes, now there's an interesting leader to think about.
Yeah.
Perhaps you're thinking about 2020?
When we were in the room, he
was,
certainly is. He told us that how he come to the conclusion that running for president in 2016 wasn't right.
Too soon because he was asked.
But he hadn't necessarily ruled out 2020 because there were people talking to him about it.
Because I can't remember the percentage, but X amount of the states, the population there wanted an alternative.
It was 40. It was 40. I thought it was. I think it was a big percentage. Wanted an alternative leader. And I imagine how many I get involved in quite a few conversations in our country about that today. People want a different choice of leadership rather than the ones that we've got at this moment in time, or even a different political party. But that's, I guess, a whole different subject.
I guess so. I mean, this has been a great conversation with you two, and thank you very much for your time. I think that next time you're down, Andy, let's carry on with part two. But for now, I've got this vision that I quite like John to join us at the table for the next one. Is that possible?
We must be able to find a way that someone that's close to John,
Yeah.
John's inner circle,
Okay.
as we talk about, there must be a way of getting somebody else involved in that.
We don't want to pay him, but our biscuits are great, if that's okay. I mean, sorry, that's my vision, but for now, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks for having us, Paul. Thank you.
Pleasure, thanks.